Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the Solution Studio at the World Social Summit. Today's session is titled Inclusive by Design, Data, Dignity, and Systems that Leave Nobody Behind. We'll be exploring three transformative initiatives driving social inclusion and SDG acceleration. I'd like to start by introducing the panelist speakers. To my left, we have Ms. Melrose Akar-Minty, Minister of Social Welfare for Sierra Leone, and she'll be representing an initiative called Scaling Up Economic Independence for Persons with Disability in Sierra Leone. Ms. Corinne Mitchell, Executive Director, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, and she will represent the Measuring Multidimensional Poverty Initiative. And third, Ms. Huda Sajjad, Deputy Minister of Labour and Social Affairs in Iraq. And she'll be talking about a program called A New Era of Universal Social Protection. So let's get started. I'd like to start with you, Minister. Tell us about your important initiative in Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much. Let me also thank the organizers of this program. Sierra Leone, we have been looking forward in how to support the less privileged, the vulnerable, especially our persons living with disability, or we call them our specially abled persons. Vulnerability is something that my ministry is very at the heart of my ministry. We are at the center of it. And persons with disability, after the war, we noticed that the numbers increased because of the over 20 or more years that we were in a war situation. So we believe that they are Sierra Leoneans, they are human beings, they deserve better. And so we decided, the government has been putting a lot of programs and policies in place, including a free quality education that also caters for them, because we believe that we need to educate our persons with disability. We need to give them skills for their economic independence. And so very recently we had a project through the India UN Fund, which we want to now scale up. That is a pilot project that we have tested, and it's working for their economic empowerment. Because what is happening is that they took to street begging, and we want to take that out of them. So the only way we can do it is to see how we will build training centers, or even repair some of them that we had, so that we can get them to train in skills, and also see how they can we'll link them up with markets. Some of them have started doing that effectively, and they are particularly happy about it, because UNDP also supported that initiative. So for now, we ensure that we get them into the skills training center. We get them a housing accommodation in the pilot district. And we want to make sure that we upscale it, because we are linking skills training to reducing poverty as well. Because it's about what somebody will be able to do that can make them economically independent. Because if you are trapped in poverty and you don't have what you can place your hand on to do, then it becomes even challenging, not only for you, but even the government. So what we have been able to do is to first ensure that we create that mentality in them to know that you can actually work with your hands. You can be part of a critical mass to think independent, as opposed to depending all the time on people. So this project is actually a project we got from Indian UN Fund that is being supported by UNDP, so that we can build training centers, we can renovate others, and we want to make sure that our persons with disability are really involved in it, so that the tailored skills, because we are tailoring skills to their needs, and also support them in this digital, because we know now that we're in a digital world and most of them are interested in that. So we are modeling this to make sure and see how much we can also upscale into other districts of the country, because this is working. Now we are seeing seemingly that they are moving out of the street situation in that district, ensuring that they are part of this, because they always come to the office and say, we want to be part of this because we are tired. So we have seen that this initiative is working, and therefore we will continue to look up to partner with other development partners, so that we can upscale. So that is what this initiative is about.
Thank you so much for those insights, and it's great to hear about the UNDP role in that, speaking as a representative of the United Nations. Okay. Corinne, could you come at this from your perspective, from an NGO or more academic or perspective?
Sure, thank you very much. So what we've been working on is the development and use of multidimensional poverty indices. And multidimensional poverty indices, simply, they look at the overlapping deprivations that each person or household experiences in dimensions such as housing, access to clean water, employment, and it looks at the experience of living in poverty and experiencing those simultaneously, and then provides information for policymakers about how to directly address them. And so we've been working with UNDP as well, with the Human Development Report Office, on the Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, which was just released, the 2025 version, a couple of weeks ago, and it looked at multidimensional poverty and overlaid it with climate hazards. And then we've also been working with countries to develop their own tailored national MPIs, which reflect national priorities and contexts. I'm very happy to say that both Sierra Leone and Iraq have national MPIs. And so they're able to use these to help track progress and to report to SDG 1 and ensure that they're leaving no one behind. Because they can also be used to disaggregate, for instance, by subnational regions, by urban-rural areas, by people living with disabilities, and by other relevant groups for the country. So that's what we've been working on, and I think it hopefully works well with some of these other initiatives that are being presented today. Thank you.
I'm curious, how do you connect with governments around the world? Do you proactively seek them out? Do you target certain areas, certain regions?
They come to us. We're actually quite a small group, so we don't have enough people to be proactively going out. But at events like these, or sometimes just by emails, we will get requests for support. It's usually for capacity building and technical assistance, working with the national statistics offices and also policymakers to think about how to design the measures in ways that are technically rigorous but also reflect local priorities, and that are informing evidence-based solutions for policymaking.
Very good, thank you so much. Deputy Minister, I'd like to turn to you. We heard about the war in Sierra Leone and the effect that had on people with disabilities, how it exacerbated the problem. Iraq obviously has gone through its own long conflict. Please give us your perspective from Iraq and specifically your initiative.
شكرا جزيلا للاستضافة. نعم، من يطلع على تاريخ العراق يجد أن العراق خاض العديد من الحروب بشكل متتالي وأزمات متعددة، وآخرها ما تمثل بداعش الإرهابي وكذلك أزمات كوفيد-19. وبالتالي اليوم أصبح الفقر عالميا سواء فقر غذائي أو فقر متعدد الأبعاد على مستوى الصحة والسكن والتعليم. كل هذه هي ثمة أمور يمكن أن توجد في العراق، لكن سأترك الترجمة حتى أكمل.
First of all, thank you very much for hosting us. I appreciate you noticing that Iraq also experiences a similar situation in which the country has not only experienced conflict, but experienced a number of challenges, health challenges, COVID restrictions, economic challenges. All of these have driven poverty and multidimensional poverty as well to be a serious threat in Iraq. Now,
اليوم العراق يبدو في نموه السكاني بشكل متزايد. اليوم بلغ عدد سكان العراق ما يقارب 45 مليون نسمة، وفي 2050 إذا ظل معدل النمو هو يزداد بشكل أكبر بنسبة 0.2. هذا صراحة يؤدي إلى أن تبذل الحكومة العراقية جهوداً استثنائية حقيقية، الغاية منها هو تأمين نظام حماية اجتماعية لكل أفراد الشعب العراقي بشكل برنامج شامل، حيث رغم هذه الأزمات الكبيرة والمتعددة حرصت الحكومة العراقية أن يكون تغطية غذائية كاملة، ولن يعلن العراق في يوم ما أن الشعب تعرض إلى مجاعة أو إلى أزمة في التغذية. اليوم التغذية تصل إلى ما يقارب بنظامنا الموجود من قبل وزارة التجارة إلى 96% من الشعب العراقي هو يكون مغطى بنظام التغذية الشاملة ببطاقة تموينية.
However, even despite all of these challenges, Iraq now is experiencing an economic population growth, and with the major efforts expanded by the government of Iraq, we have one of the largest social protection systems that has a near quasi-universal coverage, which is the public distribution system. It covers almost 96% of the population. Now, through this system, we have ensured that despite all of these challenges, all of these difficulties that Iraq has undergone in the past few decades even, the population was protected from food insecurity and hunger, basically. So that was the role of the government in addressing these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights. Minister, you talked about the digital divide, and I think that's a critical conversation that we can pursue here. It would be bad enough already without artificial intelligence, but we're just on the brink of such a quantum leap with artificial intelligence in terms of what it represents and the opportunities, but also the risks. Give us your perspective on that from Sierra Leone, if you don't mind. Are you concerned that people will be left behind because there is this sort of almost an arms race for artificial intelligence, and that the digital divide will get even wider, or are you encouraged by any initiatives?
Thank you very much. I think the world is moving, and we are moving with the world. And so artificial intelligence is something Sierra Leone welcomes, and that is why His Excellency the President is very keen about education. And he has made education free so that every Sierra Leonean, every child, able or disabled, every family, economically empowered or not, that child must go to school. Because as the world is moving with technology, innovation, and all of that, we have to be at the center of this. Because this is why even our agricultural venture, we want to feed our nation. We are making sure that technology is at the heart of it. Even with the climate change, what is happening now, technology has a role to play in terms of giving us a cushion as a country. So in all of this, we believe that as long as we educate our people, we link them to opportunities, we link them to training, they will be able, and they are very willing. They are very willing because they know that for far too long, countries like that have been left behind. But now, with the booming of education and with the artificial intelligence, like you are saying, we are all going to join the global community in ensuring that we are part of what AI is doing. And of course, in these days, you can't afford to be left behind with all of those technologies. Because in the first place, when you're traveling, you get to the airport. So we want our people to be part of what is happening. And therefore, education policy is what is going to make the difference. And we also have other policies where we say radical inclusion. Radical inclusion is when no one is left behind. Even where a girl child is pregnant, before now, those ones, it's like a death sentence, I would say. They just relegate you. But with our radical inclusion policy now, everybody is in. Even a pregnant woman, as long as she is able to study, she's going to take a public exam.
Thank you for that very uplifting answer to the question. I was fearing it might go the other way. And technology is, I mean, if you could just sort of help us understand to what extent technology and AI is available in terms of the school curricula in the country. Is that growing? Are you seeing that investment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
We have one of the best trained from MIT as our chief innovator and currently the chief minister of the government of Sierra Leone. He is, even our examination results, when those ones are out, they just have a number that you have to enter, and then your results land there. Before now, it's a hassle to be able to go and check scratch card. They have this scratch card, you have to go and follow that. But now, on your phone, you get your results in a minute. So that's how far technology, even in education, is making the waves. We want to make the country technology smart, more or less. So,
Great.
yes, it is growing.
Great to hear. Thank you very much. What about the Iraqi perspective on the digital divide and the role of AI? Are there concerns about being left behind, or are you integrating AI into these initiatives?
على العكس تماما الحكومة العراقية وبكل تشكيلاتها اعتمدت اليوم على الأتمتة الرقمية واعتمادها كشيء حتى للمسح البياني. التعداد الأخير اللي تم في نهاية عام 2024 في العراق اللي نفذته وزارة التخطيط العراقية كان يعتمد على المواقع الجغرافية، يعني بشكل كانت تقريبا نسبة تحديد العدد السكان الريف والحضر، تحديد مواقع الفقر، كله كان باستخدام الرقمنة الحقيقية والذكاء الصناعي بشكل كبير. لذلك احنا في العراق نعتقد انه يمكن الاستفادة منه بشكل امثل حتى في وزارة العمل والشؤون الاجتماعية. اليوم جميع البيانات جميع المسوحات اللي تصير في وزارة العمل والشؤون الاجتماعية تعتمد بشكل اساسي على الرقمنة الالكترونية، وذلك لضمان الشفافية بشكل كبير، وحتى تضع خطط واستراتيجيات يمكن ان تتناسق وتتناسب مع مخرجات الأتمتة الرقمية أو الاستخدام الرقمي.
On the contrary, the government of Iraq, and namely the Ministry of Planning, has been implementing digitization, automation, and even AI in some of its works and surveys. Now, more recently, Iraq has conducted the census of the population in 2024, the first of its kind for over a decade. And in this, AI and digitization has been utilized in locating the geographic areas of poverty and vulnerability. So we are doing that. We are incorporating that in our day-to-day working, and this helps us to improve and optimize the results that lead into strategy, policy making, and even in our ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, we utilize this emerging technology to help us guide and improve our work.
اليوم بدأنا في العراق استخدام في وزارة العمل البحث الاجتماعي عن الأسر الأشد فقراً من خلال البحث الإلكتروني بتحديد الGPS والأتمتة. إضافة إلى ذلك للأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة يمكن أن يكون لهم مشاهدة إلكترونية بدل أن تكون مشاهدة عينية لضمان وتخفيف الإجراءات بشكل أساسي. لذلك نحن نعتقد أن استخدام الرقمنة والأتمتة هي سبيل لتطور وشمولية الأنظمة الحماية الاجتماعية لتصل إلى الأفراد أو إلى الأشخاص اللي هم أكثر هشاشة في المجتمعات.
So in our ministry, we've been utilizing GPS technology and also automation to improve access to the most vulnerable groups that are enlisted in our social protection programs. More recently, the Persons with Disabilities Directorate has been utilizing remote viewing to verify the disability of certain individuals, something that was not done in the past, but it helps people, it alleviates their pain and makes their processings much easier. So we are all for progress. We are all for incorporating new technologies to ensure inclusiveness of our social protection delivery in Iraq. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Corinne, could you maybe come at it from a different perspective? You've got that perhaps global view of this. Are you concerned about the digital divide in any parts of the world? I mean, we've heard uplifting examples here of how it's working, but how do you feel?
Sure. So I think, as you say, globally, there does seem to be a renewed focus on the digital divide, and we have seen some countries also including ICT and digitalization into their multidimensional poverty measures, especially as increasingly government services move online. And this was accelerated during COVID when in-person support was more limited. However, I will be the voice of caution here, I suppose, in that, especially from our perspective in thinking about the generation of data for understanding multidimensional poverty and also assessing the impacts of these social sector programs, there has been this idea that big data, that AI, that machine learning could play a role or even supplant the existing or maybe more old-fashioned versions of household surveys and that sort of data generation. I think that there is a role to play and that they have, especially in the analysis of data, there is a lot that can be learned from these technologies. But at least at the moment, we don't see them as supplanting the value added of more traditional household surveys. For our work, especially in being able to look at the overlapping deprivations, so being able to see for households, are they experiencing a child not attending school and also a child being undernourished at the same time, that's where we see still a value in having household surveys.
Thank you so much. And it's also fascinating from a UN perspective to see the several hundred programs around the world that the UN is getting involved using AI to try and tackle these issues, spotting trends or helping the vulnerable. It really, the world is changing so fast. I'd like to sort of ground the conversation now in terms of this conference. I'm curious what you get out of it. Are you comparing notes with, I'll address you, Minister, with this question. Do you compare notes with other countries? What do you expect to get out of a conference like this? For many, it's another UN conference with lots of debates and lots of talk, but what specifically do you look to get out of something like this?
Thank you very much. I think the difference with this conference and others I've attended before, and I've been talking to my team, is the fact that in this conference, more of what I'm seeing is solution. And as it's rightly stated, solution. And since Copenhagen 30 years ago, we are back here now, not really with the problems, because the problems that were identified are still there. They persist. Little progress have been made in certain areas. For example, in my country, when I mentioned education, that is now free, as opposed to before now, you have to pay fees, and, we even have free meals in schools, which has also increased attendance, especially for girls. We have landmark legislation on women's economic empowerment, on women's participation in governance, politics, and all of that. We have minimum 30% quota. And in our government, we have over 30% of women as ministers. So there's progress. However, there are other areas where there are challenges. So when we come to this conference, you want to learn from other countries how they're doing it. You want to take stock, and you want to go back and introduce some of those policies other countries have done and how they've succeeded. Like we are here now to share about the stories of our disabled, how we're trying to improve their economic empowerment. So these are the things we're here for, and we really want to learn more. That's why we go into sessions, even the country reports that are given today. We've learned about how other countries have forged ahead with the Sustainable Development Goals, and what more agencies, development partners, how we can continue to be partners in development, how we can all come together to get the solutions and sustainable solutions. Because to get the solution is one, but to sustain it. And I believe that government has a big role to play in that. The governments of different countries have big role to play. But also development partners, bilateral, multilateral agencies. Everybody should come together. And we should look at how moving from Copenhagen, Doha, what next? So when we come back, we should be able to actually map the progress that we have made. So that's why we're here, and we look forward to learning more and more, and even listening to others, their stories, and how they have been able to forge ahead.
You keep giving me uplifting examples. I like this. Thank you so much. What about from an Iraq perspective? What are you getting from this conference? What are you learning? What lessons might you take home?
شكرا للسؤال. واستضيف انه الاخت السيده سراليون تكلمت عن تجربه التعليم. اليوم التعليم هو قرين الى الفقر، فالقضاء على الفقر يجب ان يكون مقرونا بالقضاء على الجهل. لأن اليوم كل مجتمع إذا تريد تنميه تنمية اجتماعية حقيقية أنه تكون هنالك رفع الجهل وتعويضه بالتعليم. فحرصت الحكومة العراقية على شمول ما يقارب 7 مليون فرد و600 ألف أسرة فرد يستملون نظام الحماية الاجتماعية، من بينهم 2,200,000 طفل تلميذ يتعلم بالتعليم الابتدائي والمتوسط والإعدادي والجامعي، ضمان أنه ننطيه إعانة أخرى مشروطة إذا استمر في المراحل الدراسية من الابتدائية إلى الجامعة، وذلك لضمان عدم توريث الفقر وعدم توريث الجهل. اليوم نحن ننوي أمام هذه القمة العالمية أن الفقر ليس فقط حماية للأفراد أو للأشخاص من توفير أمن للقضاء عليه باعتبار أنه ضمان صحي ومال، لا، اليوم نحن نذهب بتوجهنا إلى أن يكون هنالك تغذوية للعقل العراقي، باعتبار أنه اليوم كلما استفدنا واستثمرنا من إيصال هذه الخدمات سواء مقرونة بالغذاء والأمن والضمان الصحي، نجد أن التغذية الفكرية هي من تنمي العقول وتتخلص من براثم الفقر الحقيقية.
First of all, I'd like to comment on my counterpart from Sierra Leone. You mentioned education and its importance, and we in Iraq also acknowledge the importance of education and lifting people up from not just poverty but also illiteracy, or I want to say ignorance. So in Iraq we have a smaller initiative in which 7.6 million of our social protection enrollees, out of those there is 2.2 million who are children who receive an additional grant or assistance as long as they continue their education. So this helps eliminate children leaving their education, which contributes to a number of other issues. As for what we wish to obtain from this summit, definitely that by listening to others' experiences, we also would like to share and highlight that social protection isn't just about providing money or food to people. We have realized that it is also essential to provide nutritional to become a critical part and a critical component of providing social protection to all. And this is what we hope that not only we would learn, but that others would learn from our experience, that having these three components would lead to eradicating poverty, social inclusion, all of those goals that we're hoping to achieve.
يقينا بودنا أن نستفيد من تجارب الدول المتقدمة إذا كانت تجربتهم تفوق تجربتنا، وفي ذات الوقت نحن مستعدين تقديم خبراتنا الوطنية إلى الدول التي تؤمن بنظام الحماية الاجتماعية التي اتبعته الحكومة العراقية.
So in conclusion, we cherish the experiences shared by our counterparts and our colleagues and development partners, but we also want the world to look at the system we have implemented and the great successes we have achieved in this quasi-universal system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Karin, what's your perspective? Will you come away from this conference optimistic, seeing patterns that you're happy with, or less so?
At a really important time in the world as we're getting towards the end of the SDGs and also facing new crises in the world. And so having spaces to exchange experiences, to learn from each other's both mistakes and successes, I think is absolutely critical. At OFI, we also host the Secretariat for a Multidimensional Poverty Peer Network, which has a similar aim of trying to bring people, policymakers together from countries, from agencies, different people who are committed to reducing multidimensional poverty so that they can learn from each other, because there's nothing like that. There's nothing that can replace that anywhere else. And so I always come out of these optimistic. As the minister was saying, there's a difference between perhaps how you feel at the end of the conference and then where you go from there. And so it's absolutely critical to have a sense of the goals and plans for the future. But I think there's always optimism as well. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, we're drawing to a close, but you've now got one sentence each, not too long. We'd like you to sum up in one sentence, what is your call to action for donors, for governments, or private sector partners? What do you want to tell them, Minister?
Thank you. My call to donors, partners, is that Copenhagen, Doha, we need to work together, and we must align our support and rally around governments around their priorities, because we want to be co-creators of sustainable solutions. So we must align our efforts around government priorities that are also linked with the sustainable development goals that we are all trying to achieve in the world.
Excellent, thank you. Karen, one sentence.
In this time when there is perhaps an attention barrier where there's so much information coming all at once, my call would be to try to identify measures that can really be critical in more efficiently and effectively reducing multidimensional poverty, because we need integrated and multi-sectoral solutions to really make a difference, especially in a time of constrained budgets.
Thank you so much. And Deputy Minister, your call to action?
اليوم العراق يعمل حاليا بأكبر عملية إصلاح لنظام الحماية الاجتماعية وتطوير قاعدة البيانات بشكل أساسي لإنتاج أكبر قاعدة بيانات ضخمة وهي السجل الموحد. طبعا هذا يقينا جاء من العمل المشترك مع المنظمات الدولية، ولا ننسى أن الاتحاد الأوروبي في دوره في دعم تجربة العراق في إصلاح نظام الحماية الاجتماعية من 2021 لغاية 2027 كان هو بداية للطريق اليوم لجمع أكبر قاعدة بيانات. لذلك نناشد المنظمات الدولية ولا سيما الدول التي تستطيع أطر عملها بشكل أوسع يشمل الثلاث أهداف التنمية تحقيق جميع أهداف التنمية المستدامة بما فيها العراق.
So Iraq is currently engaged in the largest process to unify its single registry. So that requires a tremendous amount of work between a lot of government, development partners, and let us not forget the important and generous contribution of the European Union by 55 million from 2021 to 2027 that enables and supports this initiative. So this will help us to unify and target our support to the people who need it most. Our call to action is for all of our partners to continue this support, to expand this support, and to keep in mind that all of this aims toward the same goal, which is eradicating hunger, eradicating poverty, and achieving prosperity, joint prosperity.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much to you all for your insights and for your successes and to help frame this really important conversation. And thanks to the audience.